discretion advised.
I'm Tabitha. I'm 37. I've been married for 3 years now. I have an 18-month-old. I'm an army wife. I'm originally from Cleveland. I was a dancer. I traveled all of America and the world for about 15 years dancing, but Cleveland was my home base. And yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly how me and you met.
hmm
I did want to ask and get more into details of how you met him in the club and stuff. And could you tell me the process of how that all went down?
It was right before COVID, and I was just working a ton. I really wanted to get my boobs redone, so I was in the club every single night. And it was the night before I was gonna fly out to have my breasts done, and I was just there trying to get like 500 more for my trip. So I
Mm.
was staying really late, and it was after hours, and so they weren't serving alcohol anymore. And that's a lot of times that is when it does bring in more of the riffraff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But this guy walked in and he was 6'2", and, he was really handsome and he was very classy looking, had a nice watch on, very well dressed. I could tell he came from a good family immediately. Then, and we started talking, and he actually got me to go to an after party with him, which I should have went. I had to catch a flight the next day. But
Hmm.
on the way back from the after party, when he was taking me to my car, he actually at this point had, I don't know if he had like what had happened, but he actually crashed into a guardrail downtown Cleveland, like right near the flats by Dante's. It's still actually bent over. They never fixed it.
Really?
And he totaled the car, and then I ended up having to get a cab to get back to my house to get in my car and get to the airport. So that should have been my first red flag that, it's my first night partying with this guy, and he's randomly just wiping out downtown at like 5 in the morning for no reason.
Oh my god. That's how I swear to God. That's how it always starts. Like I've noticed, like with a lot of people's stories, that meeting people in the clubs or even like just like at a normal nightclub, it always ends up being toxic because that's exactly
hmm
why I father my child too, and he was really toxic. And yeah, but um, so how long were you guys together for?
Um, so it wasn't that long. It was only about 4 months. COVID had started, and originally I had flown out to Japan to work in a nightclub there. And then when it all got shut down, I came back to Ohio, and the clubs were shut down. So all of a sudden, I was used to like making 10,000 a month, and then I was making zero.
Oh,
And I hadn't worked a real job in 10 years at that point. So it was a little bit of a shock. Like, oh my God, this is it. Dancing's over. The lifestyle's over. And so I had to go back to moving with my parents, and I was really lonely, and he had just been hitting me up. And normally, like, I wouldn't go for like a guy, like he was living at his parents' house at 28, and like that should have been my first like red flag. And normally I wouldn't, but it was so like lonely during COVID. I was like, you know what? His mom and dad are really nice. His brother's really successful. I'll just give this a chance. And
um, you said that you mentioned he had a drug problem. Did
mhm.
you notice he had one before you guys started dating, or was it like, oh shit, what did I get myself into after?
So I had until the moment I almost died, I guess I'm like really naive, and all those years like dancing, I was only really around like cocaine. I didn't really run into any heroin users, so I had no idea what a heroin user was like or what the symptoms looked like or what their eyes looked like. I was just completely naive.
Yeah.
And so I had no idea that I was with this full-blown heroin addict that had actually been on heroin for 5 years and just hiding it.
How do you hide it that long? Oh my god. Wow. So it was so the night was that the first time you ever caught him? I think you said. Was
The
it?
night that he almost so we had only been together like I think it was like 4 months, and like really dating like the last 2 months. And he was really abusive. Like he was being mean, calling me a loser every day. He was getting unemployment, which I had no idea that his unemployment he got was complete fraud. So I thought he must have really had a great job before COVID. And he had lied and told me he did. So I had no idea that the guy I was with hadn't even had a job in years, been living at his parents' house because he had like designer clothes, he had everything. He was really just getting money from his parents. And when he got that unemployment check, I thought, oh, this must have been because he really had a serious job the last couple of years. So he'd make call me a loser, like, oh, you don't get unemployment because you were a stripper. And he just, I mean, he started, and then like, I should have known because every time towards the end of the week when his unemployment check would run out, he'd start bullying me for money, being like, oh, well, I could go get a girl that could loan me $50 when I need it. And like, that's so gross. But I was just so lonely and broke and depressed and isolated at that time. Like, I found myself like sending him the little bits of money I had. And
Oh, well, he
the
was.
now I can never imagine doing something like that, but that's how manipulated he'd literally play on my self-esteem so I was sending him my money.
Oh my god. And then he basically like tricked you into a relationship and it wasn't even really who he was. So he basically made himself seem like this whole nice guy that was had money and successful and really he's a fucking bum.
The
That
biggest bum, and then, like, my biggest mistake was when he had a child that he wasn't allowed to see. If I just would have reached out to the child's mother to begin with, she would have nicely, kindly told me all of this. Because
mhm.
when I finally did reach out, she's like, she was the kindest person in the world. She's like, "Oh my god, if only I would have known, I would have told you." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Well, I knew about you, and shame on me for not going to you first." Because obviously, he was saying that she was the reason he couldn't see the kid, and then she told me all the reasons he legally could not.
Yeah, and I feel like guys always lie like, "Oh, the mom's keeping me away from the kid," and blah 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 blah. And I mean, it is embarrassing to want to reach out to another woman because it just makes us look insecure when we try to do things like that. So I mean,
Hmm.
no, I wouldn't even blame yourself for not reaching out to her because it's. I mean, really, like, what were you really supposed to do in the first place? You were being lied to and manipulated and all that stuff. So I don't really. It's yeah, fuck that guy. Could you go into detail about like what happened the night that you got the scar on your face?
Yeah, so I had just gotten this apartment downtown. He had manipulated me, which this the only thing good he did was he beat me up bad so bad mentally. I actually went and used my degree and I got a full-time job at Cleveland Clinic. And then as soon as so I was working full time, like 50 hours a week there during COVID. And I got my own really nice apartment. It was a high rise right downtown Lakewood. It's one of the nicest ones there, and like on the 13th floor, and it was beautiful. And I got all this new furniture, and I finally had a little money in savings. And so he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna spend the night tonight." And like that night, I just like kept noticing like something was off. He ended up borrowing my car and actually wrecking it that night. Like, he came back with a bumper off and told me, "Oh, I don't know what happened. Someone got close to me on the highway." And that first was like really off. I'm like, "Look, there's just like there was no reason to come back with my bumper hanging off of my car." And
Yeah.
it was really strange, but I was like exhausted from working all day. And so I ended up falling asleep. And then in the middle of the night, I woke up after hearing a bang in the tile, like the thing, one of the ceiling panels had fallen down on me. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And I realized he was still in my house. And so I hear like rap music playing and there's all this smoke and different things coming out of the bathroom. And I go and open the door and there he was shirtless. There was needles all over the counter. There was a meth pipe. There was a crack pipe. There was Molly smashed up. There was ecstasy pills. There was fentanyl. There was Modelo bottles laying all around. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? So like and I was like, "Oh my god, you're a heroin addict?" And the first thing I thought, like, both his parents had respectful jobs at Cleveland Clinic. I'm like, "I'm gonna tell your parents, cause like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, I'm taking this to work. They're gonna see all of it." So then I got my phone and I started taking photos. And then he went ballistic and started chasing me around the apartment. This is like 3 in the morning. I had to work the next day and I was screaming, like, just get out. And so he ended up chasing me back into the bathroom. And so I was in there and I had the phone. I had locked myself in at first and I had the phone. He's like, "You're going to delete all the pictures." And he starts pounding on the door. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I just moved in this apartment. Stop pounding on the door, please." I was like, "I'll do anything. I'll delete the pictures." So I told him, "Okay, I'll unlock the door. I'll delete the pictures." And the moment I unlocked the door, it hit me and blasted me in the face. And it split my face open from here to here. It went all the way down to the bone. My skull was showing. It cut the
Oh,
muscle completely in half. I have to get permanent Botox or it sags like a person that had a stroke. I've had 7 microneedling treatments, 3 laser treatments done, and you can kind of still see it here, but it's been probably about 4 or 5 thousand dollars just trying to repair it. Luckily, at the Cleveland Clinic, I worked for the third best microneedling surgeon in the world, Dr. Chen. And when I called Cleveland Clinic the next day, I told him what happened. He canceled his appointments, and under a microscope for 3 hours, he did the tiniest needles you could possibly do. So if I had it stitched up in the emergency room, I would not look like this today. I was just so blessed to have the right doctor that could fix it under a microscope for me.
yeah, seriously, because that picture that I'm you don't mind if I put it in.
Oh, I please put that picture. I actually have a video and I'm going to try to get you that too. And I have a picture
Oh,
of my foot broken with the toenails completely torn off of them from the impact of the door.
that is a crazy as fuck that he pushed the door open that hard that it gave you that many injuries. And then you said, I know you also told me that he left you in there and he nailed the door shut.
Yeah, so once I was knocked out, sometime during this point, he had gotten my phone. He deleted all the photos of the heroin and everything. He got on my Zelle and in my Cash App, and he emptied out my savings, all everything I had. I was down to 0. Yeah, so he stole all my money. And then since I had just moved in recently, my dad had left his electric screwdriver there to put my bed together. He got the electric screwdriver and screws, and then he put 13 screws in the door and then went back to doing heroin. Well, all this was so noisy that the neighbors had called the police. So eventually they figured out which apartment was in. And when they came in, they said that he was just sitting in the closet, just injecting himself with heroin. And the first time I woke up was from the paramedic screaming because when she opened the door and turned on the light, I was just laying there in so much blood. She thought I was dead at first. So she just let out this terrifying scream that's what she saw. And I remember I kept telling the lady, I was like, I don't want to take a bath right now. And she said, Sweetie, you're not taking a bath. You're in your own blood. I was just that drenched in that much hot blood. It had just been squirting. And then I passed back out because I was so weak at that time. I had lost so much blood. So they got me out of there and on a stretcher. But the police officer actually told him, like, hey, she didn't make it, buddy. She's dead. And he's literally told the officer, that sucks. Let me shoot up one more time before I go to jail.
What a fucking psychopath.
Yeah, and so, I went to Cleveland Clinic by 9 a.m. I was able to get my face stitched up. I was on crutches for a while after that. And then he started manipulating me when this is the worst part. So 2 days after he gets out of jail, I hear he gets out, and I'm like, how the fuck did he bail out? Well, he used all the money he stole from me out of my accounts that night to bail himself out.
What did they charge him with?
He got charged with felonious assault for hitting me with the door and kidnapping, and he pled out to aggravated assault and unlawful restraint.
Is he still in jail?
So he got 1 year in prison. He was removed at 7 months and went to a rehab and spent the next year in a rehab after that.
That's why the
And
justice system is so fucked up. Because
but like
he should
I
not.
made it worse on myself. He was manipulating me, telling me it was true love and he was so sorry. And at that time, like I was still in love with him. So I went and told the judge and the prosecutor to do the least to him.
Uh,
Because and that's why like and a lot of people don't understand that about victims is you have Stockholm syndrome, you fall in love with that person, you're so manipulated, your self-esteem is very low. You don't feel like you can get anyone else. And then and it's like maybe, I regret doing that because if he would have gotten the real prison time, if I had it been there calling the judge saying, no, just forgive him, it was a bad thing, he's still free, just out
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Do you think he's still on drugs to this day?
From what I've heard, he is. Me and his baby's mother are still in close contact because we share a survivor's bond. He's not paying her child support, and I guess the police haven't been able to locate him. But my abuser likes to go around and pretends that he's an owner of the spa and will trick girls into sleeping with him and getting with him, thinking that they'll get to go to that med spa and get free Botox and fillers. So I've heard he's been up to that scam.
This guy is a real piece of fucking work. Like,
He really like I mean, he's like literally terrifying. He is a true psychopath. He feels no empathy. He actually got diagnosed, he admitted in rehab by a psychologist that antisocial personality disorder. So it's like he got the diagnosis.
yeah. Was there any other incidents before that major one that finally ended everything?
No, he didn't. So he was he acted like he acted like totally like he was this clean, proper person. I wouldn't do anything like that, but he was extremely degrading and mean and would leave me on red. And he would even take my car and borrow it for hours and tell me he fell asleep. And it's just like all these signs, like when women put up with disrespect, you're paving like that if something like this will happen to you in the future. Like any disrespect like that can't be tolerated because this is the type of person that's going to do something bigger later.
Did you see him again after that? Was he that manipulative?
um he immediately disappeared, and which was good because I really didn't want to talk to him anyways. And 3 months later I ended up meeting my husband, and then the moment he found out I was engaged, he found my husband's number somehow. I have no idea how he did it. He started to be pretending to be all these different guys, sending old nudes of me, contacting his family. I've had to block him so many different times, and I live out of state now, and I need to get I just last week he made up 2 new Snapchats to try to add me. Like he's just not stopping.
And you've been married to your now husband for 3 years, and he still
3
hasn't
years.
stopped. That's an actual I mean, that's obsession. That's insane.
Yeah.
And that makes me honestly worried for you because, like, what if he did end up, like, he got fed up and he's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go find her again and do worse than she did this to me," because, they always blame the victim for
Mhm.
go to jail, and the fact that what really pisses me off too is that he just left you for dead in that bathtub. If nobody called the cops, you probably would have bled out and died, and
Yeah.
he
Oh, I actually wasn't in a bathtub, I was laying on the floor, but I thought I
oh,
was in a bathtub because I was that
oh,
drenched in hot blood, I just thought I was taking a bath, I was so out of it.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and I had a temporary memory loss for a while too, I mean, it was a bad concussion, like, literally, I
Yeah,
went like that, and you could see my skull, that like, the whole muscle was completely torn through.
that's insane to me. You're so lucky to be alive.
And then his mom started calling me and harassing me and said, "You're really gonna ruin my son's life over a little scratch." And wait till I show you the picture of it stitched up. I meant to send that to you. You can actually see all the stitches from this long. Like, it's a
Yeah.
very, yeah.
Do you have a protection order against him or anything like that?
I did, but it's expired. It's been 3 years.
Oh, okay.
But
I
that
wonder.
didn't stop him anyways, honestly. He's been harassing me this whole time.
That's insane to me. That's kind of like I'm kind of like speechless, honestly.
Well,
Uh,
then, like, so, and then another thing where I really went wrong is I should have done a background check on him because I ended up finding out that 5 years before me, he was arrested on felony charges for he was caught in his ex girlfriend's house standing over her bed, and his parents they actually lost their house from bankruptcy from all the credit cards that they put for to pay for his attorney on that. They ended up losing their house just last year, but yeah, he was caught standing over this it was an ex-girlfriend, and then his lawyer got him off because somehow I guess at some time that day, she told him he could stop by and pick something up that was his at the house. They had broken up, but he had just broken her house, and he stole her iPad and a lot of other of her personal things, and this lawyer was able to get him off. He was supposed to go to jail for 10 years then for burglary, but, unfortunately, this lawyer got him off, and so this other girl sat through this whole long trial in Cleveland for not didn't get anything, no, for what he did.
yeah, that's why the justice system is so fucked up. Um,
Mhm.
luckily, I did just find out like they have a new law where like if any victim gets strangulized or anything, I guess it's like a really bad. You get like a really bad charge, like it'll go up to like a F4, I believe, which is good because they didn't have anything against strangulation like a year ago, and but they need to have more like stricter laws over shit like this, especially with over like multiple offenses. I mean,
Mhm.
it sounds to me like this isn't the first. Did his ex ever call the cops on him or anything?
There was she did a lot of different times, and that's also why his daughter can't see he can't see her or come near them because, like, she has, like, when she talked to her, she'll send the photos, but her face was split open, not as bad as mine, but close in several
How
places.
open? If you don't mind me asking.
Um, he was punching her.
Oh,
So, yeah, he was straight up just hitting her.
I agree with that. It took me forever. I mean, I still to this day, I think sometimes I don't love myself all the way, but I mean, it is true. You have to at least love yourself enough to get yourself out of that situation, or it's gonna it's gonna get worse and worse, and you're gonna end up not only are they gonna destroy you, but you're gonna end up destroying yourself in the long run.
Yeah, because, like, once a man starts abusing you or taking down and you lose your peace, there goes your looks. Like, it doesn't matter how beautiful you are, you will not look pretty. Your skin won't look pretty. Nothing will be your whole energy. Like, they will destroy you. Like,
Yeah.
goodbye your credit score. Everything will get ruined in the
Yep.
process.
Yep, in your mind, and I mean, even when you're just unhappy, your body, like you just said, like you
Hmm.
get on somebody when they're not happy. That's why they'll be like, "Oh God," like when you're depressed or something, like, "Oh God, you really don't look that good. Are you okay?" Like you can read it all over somebody. So, yeah, I agree with that. Did you have any other details that you wanted to go into detail about, or
Trying to think. I guess a lot of it was just like he was always lying, and like a lot of these manipulators, they're extremely smart. They know exactly how to lie. And like
yeah,
when you start just feeling confused, like, yeah, because somebody's lying to you, like the feeling of confusion should never be present in a relationship either.
hmm,
Like there's just so many feelings. Like once your peace is gone, you gotta go.
you never know. You'll probably be helping so many people without even knowing it.
Hmm. I hope. I don't want anyone else to go through that. Just thinking of how low I felt every day before that happened, how bad he was to my self-esteem, like, he actually had me near suicidal, like, I can't even look at photos. and see that sadness in my eyes, it makes me sick to see like how low of a place I once was. And I could have been fine on my own with zero problems, but I just had to, and if I just would have stayed patient, God was bringing me what I was meant for. But the
Yeah.
devil, right before God brought that, the devil brought the thing that was going to destroy it all. And people need to remember that before God's going to really bless you, the devil, will usually try to rise up and stop it.
National Domestic Violence Hotline, 800-799-7233. Don't be another statistic.